It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Thursday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. The Civil War is heating up. That's what it is. That's what we're in. This is straight up, and I'm declaring it tonight, we are in a schism. This is a civil war in the Republican Party. There's no mistake about that. I would argue Groyper War II, Groyper War I were antecedents to the conflict, but we're fully in one now. It is a civil war in the GOP between America First on one side and Israel First on the other. And there have been many precipitating events, but it is clear that my interview with Tucker Carlson was the flashpoint. This was your Franz Ferdinand moment. There's no going back. It became clear. This is a full-fledged, intractable difference of opinion between two major parts of the conservative movement. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Our featured story, we're going to talk all about the Heritage Foundation statement on Tucker Carlson. Very interesting. And if you're not familiar, the Heritage Foundation is one of the preeminent, most important, most prestigious conservative think tanks in America and has been for almost a half century. There were rumors earlier in the week that maybe they were distancing themselves from Tucker Carlson because he chose to interview me. Well, today, the president of the Heritage Foundation came out with a very strong statement and insisted that that is not the case. And it was sort of interesting because he identified some very clear guiding principles, maybe some very good guiding principles that we can all rally behind as we try to determine what the conservative movement is going to be in the future. He said he is Christ first and he supports America always. He's America first. He said he also supports free speech over cancel culture. That sounds pretty unobjectionable to me. Christ first, America first, free speech. That's a pretty succinct distillation of everything that we're about. Maybe missing some specifics, but in broad strokes, that's almost perfect. He said that we're allowed to criticize Israel. Also true, factually. It's also prescriptively true. We ought to be able to criticize Israel. He says that we should not feel obligated to reflexively support a foreign country. Who could argue with that? Obviously true. He said that there is a group of venomous, divisive people that are out to cancel Tucker Carlson. That's a fact. Did we not read just yesterday Josh Hammer say that Tucker should be neutralized? What is that other than venomous? Do we not hear Mark Levin attacking Tucker daily, calling him a Qatari spy, calling him an Islamist, a Jew hater? What would you call that other than venom, poison? It's what it is. And about me, the president of Heritage said he abhors some of my views, disagrees with others, which I don't really understand, frankly. I get why he said it, though. He said, but I should not be canceled. I should be debated. People should feel free to talk to me because that's how we solve problems in America. Is that really controversial in the conservative movement that we should talk to people that we disagree with rather than censor them or blacklist them or kill them? Is that controversial now? Apparently. Because that was the gist of the statement. And now this has caused an unbelievable amount of backlash. So first Tucker Carlson was canceled, Heritage Foundation, like I said, a very important institution, stood up for Tucker. And for that, now the president of Heritage is being canceled. And go on Twitter, look up the statement, look at the quote tweets. These people are unhinged. They have lost their minds. They're psychotic. And this is an intractable difference. This is irreconcilable. This is a schism. And I'll tell you why. Because 90% of Americans, 90% of conservatives will watch that video and they will agree with every single word. Every single word. It is not controversial in the least. It is not objectionable, and it's not wrong. That's 90% of Republicans. That's the base. The Christians, the conservatives, the voters, they will watch this video, and not only will they find it uncontroversial, they'll support it. They'll say it's about time somebody said this. And he's right. 90% of people love Tucker. And 90% of people watch that interview, and maybe they don't like me, and maybe they don't like everything I said. But they didn't find it to be a world-ending event. A lot of people liked it. Some people disagreed with parts of it. We're all going to live. People love Tucker. They love the interview. At worst, they didn't mind it. And as far as the statement is concerned, they like the statement. They don't want Tucker to be kicked out of the movement anytime soon. That being said, on the other side, we have the 2%. The 2% that think everything is about them. The world revolves around them. The world turns on an axis which is centered in Israel. The Holocaust Remembrance Day is the holiday that anchors the year. For them, the Hebrew Bible is at the center of all of Western civilization, not Rome, not Greece, not the gospel, not the crucifix, not the church, not the Enlightenment. No, it's the book of Moses alone and the Talmud. And the 2%, well, they saw a completely different video. For them, this was literally another Holocaust. Go look on Twitter. Tell me I'm exaggerating. The 2%, the $7,000 club, they saw this video, and where everybody else said it's totally fine and we agree with it, they literally think this is the beginning of the next Holocaust. They're saying it's getting so bad, it's a nightmare, it's happening so fast. They're ruthlessly attacking Heritage, its president, Tucker, me, screaming about Nazis, about Muslims, about Qataris, about the hysterics, the drama, the paranoia. And I have never felt more alienated from those people than I do right now. Never, ever. And I think everybody else feels the same way. I think for the first time, me and the whole conservative movement are on the same page. How did that happen? And I'm hard to like. I'm not a very nice guy, and I have a dark sense of humor. I'm provocative. I got something to say about everybody. I'm a pretty difficult guy to like. And arguably, people could say I'm pretty radical. But today, I think 90% of the conservative movement is with me. If you have to pick between the Josh Hammers, the Andrew Clavins, the Seth Dillons, this crowd, the Mark Levins, or the Nick Fuenteses, the Tucker Carlsons, which side are you on? I think today everybody's on the side of Tucker and Nick Fuentes. And it's not even close. And that's not out of hate. That's not out of cruelty or resentment or envy. It's out of common sense. And so we'll talk about the video tonight. We'll talk about the reaction. We'll talk about all this stuff. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. And what I will say at the beginning here, never let them deceive you. Do not let them gaslight you. Let's be absolutely clear about what is going on here. This is about the U.S. relationship with Israel, specifically Israel's genocide in Gaza, their ambitions to drag us into a war with Iran, and the fact that a lot of Americans are simply saying enough. No. That's what this is about. So they want to make it about everything other than that. They want to talk about anti-Semitism and you're a hater and his horrible views. It's not about any of that. This is very simple. Why do people like me? It's because I am one of the few people that is assertively and loudly and vocally against the genocide in Gaza, against the war with Iran, against the Israel lobby. That is why I have become so popular. Period. End of story. Why is my show blown up in the past 7 months? Because I have been talking about Gaza, Iran, Jeffrey Epstein, AIPAC, all of it. Barry Weiss, Larry Ellison, Peter Thiel, the whole thing, the whole enchilada. That's why I'm popular. That's why people love the show, because they agree and they're sick of it. And now that there is a critical mass of people that agree with me on these subjects, now there's a big threat that in 2026 or 2028, they might vote that way. They might vote in such a way where there will be pressure on Republicans and Democrats to stop supporting Israel. That's the crisis. That, in a nutshell, is the problem. People like me because I'm talking about these issues, and they're worried that people are going to vote in this way in the next election. They're worried that in 2028, somebody is going to run in one of the primaries, the Democrat or the Republican side, and they're going to say, vote for me, America first. We're going to cut off Israel. That's why they're freaking out. And do not let them gaslight you into thinking it's about anything else. They said, oh, he said something 5 years ago. 3 years ago, he said a bad thing on his show. That's not what this is about. They say anti-Semitism, you're a hater. It's not about that either. Do you know what anti-Semitism really means? It means you oppose the political agenda of the Jews in Israel. That's what that means. If you are telling Israel and the Jews, you can't get everything you want, they say you're anti-Semitic. As I guess that's what it means to be Semitic. Israel and the Jews get everything they want, and they're never told no. They get to ban who they want from Twitter. They get the missiles they want when they want them. They get the wars they want when they want them. They get to kill whoever they want when they want to. And nobody is allowed to tell them no. Not the UN, not Europe, not international law, not the American president, not the voters. Nobody's allowed to say no. And if somebody gets up and says, you know what, enough. This is America. You don't run the show here. You're 2% of the population. It's a Christian nation. You have gone too far. You're abusing your privileges. And that's when they turn around and say you're anti-Semitic. And then it starts with the guilt tripping and the emotional blackmail. Then they want to make it about your words. Oh, you said something. You're a hater. You're a horrible person. And they're the biggest hypocrites in the world. They're the most hateful people. It's unbelievable. After 2 years of them saying the most unbelievable things about the Palestinians. Here's a quick survey. In First Things, a Catholic magazine, they say there's a virtue in hatred, in hating Palestinians. Randy Fine, an elected representative endorsed by Trump, said it's funny when Palestinian children are starved to death. They say there's no innocence. They say that the children and the women are not innocent. They deserve to die too. They say, give them hell, kill them all. Transfer's not a dirty word. Remove the population. These are the people They made fun of Aaron Bushnell. Remember the liberal activist that self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy? They laughed at him. They mocked him. When Greta Thunberg led the convoy to Palestine, they said they should shoot her with a missile or torture her. These are the people that want to turn around now and say, oy vey, your show is so hateful. You're a horrible person. You're vitriol. Save it. No one's buying it anymore. Spare us the emotional blackmail. Spare us the gaslighting, the guilt tripping. No one's buying it anymore. No one's playing that anymore. This is about whether we, the people, will regain control over our government. It's about whether we're going to be America first or Israel first. That is what this is about. That is always what this has been about. Now they hide behind Donald Trump. And they say they're splitting apart the MAGA movement. They were all never Trump in 2016 because Trump said America first. And now that Trump sold out to Miriam Adelson, now they want to run and hide behind him and say, you're not MAGA if you don't support Israel. Let's not forget where we came from here. So we'll get into all that, but I just wanted to say at the outset, let's not forget. Don't be mistaken. Don't let them deflate you. Don't let them gaslight you. Let it wash over you. When they tell you we're hateful, we're monsters, never forget who you're dealing with. They lie. You know, Josh Hammer's going to get on a show and talk about their filth. They're filth and I hate them and Palestinians have to be destroyed. And then they want to turn around and say, you're the bad guy. Let's just cut this shit, pal. It's whether we're going to have America first or Israel first. And we all know what side you're on. And stated that way, it's unambiguous who everybody else is with. We're all with America first. Doesn't matter the disagreements, you know, we could get into, like me and Tucker, we had some minor disagreements on Monday. It's nothing compared to the disagreements that collectively we have with them. So steel yourselves, get some backbone, get the courage of your convictions. If you're out there, and by the way, I don't care what color you are. I know maybe that's going to be controversial on my side, but seriously, if you have citizenship, if you were born in this country, this is your birthright. This is our lives. This is our rights. This is our heritage. It's our tax dollars. It's our government. It's our military. This is our country. This is our empire. I'll unite with anybody who proclaims America first above all other countries, including and especially Israel. And they're on the other side of this one, and they're wrong. They need to be put back in their place. Anybody who says that America should come second needs to be reminded your place is number 2. America's number 1. Anything else, it's not even number 2. It's number 100. It's America first, second, third, fourth, fifth. That's what we're about. Anyway. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk tonight about J.D. Vance, who attended Turning Point USA, another microcosm. J.D. Vance is getting squeezed, and he's going to have to make a decision. J.D. Vance, our vice president, spoke at Turning Point USA last night, and he held a Q&A session, just like the Groyper Wars, just like Charlie Kirk. And he was met with one Groyper question after the other. They said, tell us about your connections with Palantir. Why did you marry a Hindu if you're a Christian? They said, is the United States controlled by Israel? And J.D. Vance had to pander to his new Groyper base. He said, well, this president isn't controlled by Israel. America must come before Israel. He said, the Jews don't believe in our Messiah. He said, I married Usha when I was agnostic, but I hope she converts to Christianity. And the Israel lobby was not happy with his answers. The Israel lobby said, JD, why did you not take that opportunity to forcefully condemn anti-Semitism? These were the wrong answers. How could you say that this president isn't owned by Israel? Do you mean that other presidents were owned by Israel? He's getting squeezed because the Groypers are on the one hand saying, hey, listen, fat boy, we want America first. You want to run for president? We want to hear you say America first. And on the other side, he's got his donors, and they're saying they're horrible anti-Semites. You have to disavow them. You have to forcefully condemn them. Condemn Tucker. Condemn the Groypers. Now, if Vance condemns the Groypers, we are deploying to Iowa. Raise your right hand. I swear I'm going to move to Iowa and New Hampshire and Nevada and South Carolina and one primary after the next. And we will go to every town hall. We will go to every meet and greet where there's 4 or 5 people, and we will be there. And we'll do it for free. People will drive there for free, and they will follow Vance around and ask him, when will you put America first? Why would you condemn the young white men of America and sell out to our elites? We'll be there. We'll be in Iowa. We'll be in every primary and caucus state. So he doesn't want to condemn the Groypers. But if he doesn't, then Adelson is going to pull the plug. If he doesn't condemn the Groypers, then all the Israel First money is going to pull the plug. And J.D. Vance might find himself defunded. And all that money is going to pour into the coffers of Marco Rubio or some other competitor. That's the Groyper squeeze. This is politics. Okay? Now this is pod racing. Are you starting to get it now? Now it's starting to make sense. I'm glad you're finally putting it together. This is why we must always demand more. People say, well, if we attack Vance, who are we going to get in 28? You're telling us not to vote Republican? We had to do those things to show that we were serious. We had to do those things. It's not about the votes. It's about sending a message. We had to let JD know and the GOP know that our votes are conditional. You want our votes? You have to give us something. And if you don't give us anything, we won't vote for you, and we'd be happy to see you lose. That's called leverage. And when you engage somebody on the basis of leverage in a negotiation, that means you're equals. That means you have a seat at the table. It's all those idiots, it's all the suckers that wait outside the meeting room for the two parties to walk outside to get told what the deal is going to be. We'll vote for JD no matter what. Tell us what it's going to be. Tell us what we have to swallow next. That's all of you idiots like Andrew Isker, John Doyle. That's all of you shit-eating suckers that will eat anything they serve up to you from the GOP because you'll vote for them no matter what because you're not ready to play hardball. You're negotiating against yourself because you're stupid and weak. You didn't learn the lessons from Trump. You think you're like him, you're not like him. So this is the Vance squeeze. He knows it, they know it, I know it. Soon the whole party's going to know it. This is how the Groypers take over. Can they kick Tucker Carlson out of Turning Point? I don't think so. Can they afford to lose J.D. Vance? And can J.D. Vance afford to lose us? I don't think so. This is hardball. So we'll talk about that too. One thing after the next, one battle after another. We're going to move on. Before we get into the show, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the show. Check out our merch store, Fuentes.store. We have our brand new t-shirts, weighing half. It's a bestseller. They're all over TikTok, but this is the authentic one. This is the original. White ass nigga going hard as fuck. That's what we are. You don't even need to be white. You could be black and be a white ass nigga going hard as fuck. Because, it's white. We're spiritually white. We're weighing half. We're going hard. We're going hard this year and every year. Me on the back, Fuentes.store. Get the hats. Get the hats if you want them in time for Christmas. We have them in black. They say America First. Black, blue, and camo. These are some good-looking hats. Get all three. This one looks kind of like Halloween, or this could be Halloween. But if you want them in time for Black Friday and Christmas, you should order them now. Fuentes.store. Subscribe at AmericaFirst.plus. If you want to join the War Room, it's the $100 a month club. You get to hang out with me in the group chat. $15 a month, you get access to the entire archive, every show I've ever done. AmericaFirst.plus is the link. Okay, with that being said, we're going to move on. We got to get into this because this is going to be a big show. I could already tell. We are thoroughly in the Groyper War. The civil war for the GOP. Everybody knows it. Everybody can feel it. And this has been coming to a head for a very long time. It started last year. I said I'm not going to vote for Trump. Why? Because Trump is no longer putting America first. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. He got endorsed by Nikki Haley when she was in Israel. That's a bad sign. Trump said that he would bomb Iran, which of course he then did. He said he would staple the green cards of millions of Indians to their college diplomas and let them live here forever, among other things. So last year I said I'm not going to vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Kamala. I didn't tell anybody to do that. But I said I can't in good conscience vote for Trump. He's not putting America first. And I was excoriated for this. People said I was a Democrat. I was a subverter. I happened to be right. Donald Trump appointed as his national security advisor Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz was then fired 3 months later because he was literally on the phone with Netanyahu every day, working for him, trying to push America into a war with Iran. I'm not making that up. Google it. One of the top national security posts, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, was fired because he was working for Netanyahu inside our government. As soon as Trump was elected, he started a war in Yemen, bombing the Houthis. He gave Israel $12 billion in foreign aid while he's taking health care, taking away Medicaid. Then bombed Iran, got us involved in Israel's war with Iran, which surely we have not seen the end of just yet. He buried the Jeffrey Epstein files and for months engaged in a deliberate cover-up with lies and cover stories and deception that goes on until this day. His DOJ let an Israeli official who was trying to molest an underage girl escape from Las Vegas, Nevada, and take refuge in Israel. This is our Trump administration. And throughout this year, people like myself and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and others have become incredibly vocal about this betrayal. This is not the America First that we signed up for. War with Iran, covering up Jeffrey Epstein, taking money from Miriam Adelson, Netanyahu's top officials working inside our government. Is this the Bush administration or is this the Trump administration? It's a valid question. And so as the year dragged on, these divisions and tensions came to the fore. Tucker Carlson became increasingly vocal against the war in Iran. I achieved a generational run, in part because of my vocal criticism and my correct prediction that we would enter a war with Iran. And we have been met with nothing other than attacks, slander, cancel culture from the Israel First wing of the Republican Party. All of them Jewish, most of them, I should say. Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, Dave Rubin, Seth Dillon, Joel Berry. They started calling us woke right, or woke Reich, like the Nazis. They said we're anti-Semites. They said we work for Qatar. We work for the Islamists. They said this because we want to put America first. Why? We want no more foreign aid. We want the genocide to stop. We don't want to enter a regime change war with Iran. We don't want to give Israel $12 billion. We want to get to the bottom of the Epstein files. For this, we were called Qatari spies, Muslim Islamists, woke right, anti-Semitic, Jew haters. This is how it started. And over the summer, it became undeniable that I was rapidly ascending and becoming one of the biggest names in conservative politics, right there with Tucker and Candace Owens. And you have a situation now where these are like your top three. The triumvirate, the biggest properties, the biggest shows on the right wing right now, it's no longer Ben Shapiro, if you look at his ratings. It's no longer Jordan Peterson. The top three, the ones with the most motion, the most dynamic, the biggest shows, the biggest views, the hottest guests. It's probably Tucker, Candace, and this summer, me. And so the Israel First right is freaking out. What's more, you're starting to see that there is an element inside the Trump I want to say this at the beginning. Let's not forget what really precipitated this. A couple of weeks ago, Gavin Wax, a Jew, a delegate for the Zionist Organization of America, descendant of Holocaust survivors, friend of the Democrat Chuck Schumer, of America, descendant of Holocaust survivors, friend of the Democrat Chuck Schumer. Gavin Wax is working in the State Department. His boss is Darren Beattie, another pro-Israel Jew. Gavin Wax leaks to the liberal media a group chat where about a dozen or so young Republicans are making edgy jokes, some of them about Jews in Israel. A month after Charlie Kirk is murdered and his assassination is celebrated by the left, you have a Jewish Israel First conservative, Gavin Wax, working under another Jewish Israel First conservative, Darren Beattie, feeding young Republicans into the wood chipper, getting them canceled, blowing them up by sending their edgy group chat to the left-wing media. They all lose their jobs. They all get fired. They're getting death threats right now. They have families. I know some of them. They're married. They have young families. They're getting death threats and doxxed at their house because an Israel First conservative in the administration doxed them to the left because maybe they don't have the right opinion on Israel. And Gavin Wax is protected. He did not get fired. He will not get fired. A week later, Paul Ingrassia, former influencer, he's a lawyer. He was nominated for a position in the Office of the Special Counsel, has to get confirmation from the Senate to get the post. They throw everything at him. A fake sex scandal, which doesn't even make sense. They said he shared a hotel room with a girl. Okay, big whip. Then his group chat becomes public where he's talking about the Jews and the Indians. Why do you think he got canceled? Because once upon a time, he wrote an article saying that I should be reinstated on Twitter. He's friends with Andrew Tate. Both of us have criticized Israel in the past. So Paul Ingrassia, his nomination, his confirmation hearing was sabotaged by another group chat leak from one of his friends, from people betraying him in the White House. This happened simultaneously as Larry Ellison and his son David Ellison buy TikTok, and they buy Paramount, and they buy Warner Brothers, and they buy CBS. And they do it in a partnership with Bibi Netanyahu to erase and censor all Israel criticism on those social platforms and in those media companies. That's their explicit intent. Netanyahu meets with a group of influencers and says, this is the eighth front in our war against Iran. We have to win over the hearts and minds of Americans by censoring all the criticism of our country. The other major development is that in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death, we find out that even he seemed to be coming our way. Even though Charlie Kirk was my mortal enemy in life, even though he was my political opponent, he called me vermin and tried to destroy my career, even he was coming my way and doubling down on his defense of Tucker Carlson and even Candace Owens. Because he, like everybody else, was being bullied by the pro-Israel, Israel First wing of the conservative movement. They said he wasn't doing enough to support Israel. He wasn't canceling Tucker. He wasn't doing a good enough job defending Israel on his campus tour. So they were taking money from him, browbeating him at fundraisers, and even he was going in the other direction. This is what set the stage for what we're about to talk about. This is a civil war. And it seems that my interview with Tucker Carlson on Monday, as I said before, this was the Franz Ferdinand moment of the GOP civil war. After I had my feud with Tucker Carlson over the summer, he graciously reached out to me. We squashed the beef. We met face to face and we talked about our differences. No, we did not ask Mark Levin for permission first. No, we did not ask Ben Shapiro for permission to speak. We did not ask the Sanhedrin or the Zionist Organization of America or the ADL. Permission to speak, sir? Can two Americans talk about our country? Can two Americans shake hands and talk about America for a change? We didn't ask for permission. And it was this radical act, this courageous act by Tucker Carlson to just speak with me. He didn't agree with everything I said. We didn't agree on a lot, and it was a little contentious at times. But his decision to simply humanize me, to treat me like a human being, to acknowledge my existence, to say my name, to shake my hand, and to simply talk about our ideas and where we agree and where we disagree. For this, they want his head. And that's not an exaggeration. After the interview, a noted Israel First propagandist, Josh Hammer, called for Tucker to be killed. And he did it in the front page of the Daily Mail. He said Tucker Carlson should be neutralized. Nick Fuentes should be neutralized. Is that really the right choice of words? In this climate, Donald Trump got shot, Charlie Kirk got shot, and you go on Daily Mail and say Tucker and Nick need to be put down like animals? And now you have psycho people on the internet that are talking about killing me and Tucker. They know what they're doing. That's like stochastic terrorism. They're stoking the flames of hatred and violence against me and Tucker. There are extremists out there that want me and Tucker dead. And what do you think they're thinking when you hear this hysteria from Mark Levin and Josh Hammer? They want some psycho to come and kill us. That's what they're doing. Levin and Josh Hammer know exactly what they're doing. They want some crazy person to go and murder us. That is what they're doing. They know they're doing that. There's no excuse anymore. Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck because of exactly that kind of thinking. At least that's, to the best of our knowledge, the official story. And that's how it started this week. But the week dragged on, and there seemed to be some evidence that the Heritage Foundation, one of the most prestigious and important conservative think tanks in America, historically, Earlier this week, it appeared that they were distancing themselves from Tucker Carlson. They removed his name from their website. And everybody said, it seems that Tucker is now being canceled. The Israel First Wing is successfully canceling Tucker because Heritage is pulling the rug out from under him. Well, the president of the Heritage Foundation came out today with the video statement and forcefully denied that allegation. He came out and said, of course, we are not abandoning Tucker Carlson. We like Tucker. We support Tucker. He said, and we're not going to give in to the venomous people that are trying to get him canceled. They said, we are Christ first, we are America first, and we love free speech. They said, we are allowed to criticize Israel. We are not obligated to reflexively support Israel. He said, and although he doesn't agree with my positions, Nick Fuentes, he said, we do not engage in cancel culture, we debate our differences. This is an extremely courageous statement. You guys don't understand the pressure these people are under. This guy stood on business, and he said what we're all thinking. Those are three principles that everybody can get behind. What is wrong with any one of them? He said, Christ is king, America first, and free speech. Amen to that. And I know a lot of people don't love everything that I say, and they don't want to defend everything I've ever said, but those are three things that I absolutely support, and I think we all support. Christ is king, America first, and free speech. This is a Christian nation. Jesus Christ is our king, and our laws and our government should be inspired by Christ. Not just the Bible, not just the Old Testament. No, the person of Jesus Christ. And let's not make any mistakes here. Let's not make any rounding errors. Don't get it twisted. They like to say biblical. They like to say Old Testament, Hebrew Bible. That's all great. But without the person of Jesus Christ, no one gets to God. So, no. Actually, and maybe this is controversial, but I'll be the one to say it, the man, the God-man, the hypostatic union, Jesus Christ, he was real, he is real, he was God, he is God. Before any of us were born, before anything was created, he is God, co-eternal and begotten by the Father. That takes precedence, actually. People say the Hebrew Bible, people say biblical, people say Abrahamic. I'm going to pretend like I don't speak English. I don't know what those words mean. The only language I understand is Jesus Christ is God. That's the foundation. That's our moral code. He didn't say the Bible is the way, the truth, and the life. He said, I am. And that's an important distinction. Jesus Christ is king. That's number one. Number two, he said America first. Who could disagree with this? Is that not what George Washington said in his farewell address? No entangling alliances, not going abroad in search of monsters to destroy? What did John Jay write in Federalist 2? A splendid union on one continent, one people, one religion, one heritage, similar in manners and customs, all the way through to Donald Trump. A new vision will govern the land, America first. Who could disagree? We were blessed by providence to be separated from the rest of the world by two oceans, to have all this land, all our natural resources, an enormous population. We're not beholden to anybody, any country, not any country in Europe or Asia or the Middle East or anywhere for that matter. And that's because we have sovereignty. That is because we declared our independence. We emancipated ourselves. We appealed to our rights that come from God as citizens, not subjects. as independent and sovereign people of the United States of America. That's the foundation of the Declaration. That's the foundation of the Constitution and of our country. America first. It can be no other way. Who could disagree? And free speech, our freedom of conscience, our First Amendment rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights, the ability to think and say what we believe, because that's how we solve our problems in this country. Not by way of deception, not rise and kill them first, which is the motto of the Israeli Mossad. Rise and kill them first by way of deception. We don't solve our problems like that in America. We're not cowards. We don't do false flags. We don't do cowardly assassinations. We solve our problems by talking to each other. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. Going back to the Greeks and the Romans and our heritage in the British Empire, that's who we are. Who could disagree? These are the pillars of our movement. Christ is King, America first, and free speech. And by the way, everybody agrees with this. 98% of conservatives and patriotic Americans agree with all this. And they saw that clip and they agreed with every word. They love Tucker Carlson. And they love Tucker Carlson because, say what you want about him, and I've had my criticisms, he is patriotic, he tells the truth, he speaks common sense, he's not afraid of anybody. He is a true American. He's not about the bullshit. People love him, and no one is going to cancel Tucker Carlson because Mark Levin said so. So people saw that statement, and they said, you know what? It's about time. We're not getting rid of Tucker Carlson. We're not getting rid of Christ. We're not going to put America second. We're not actually obligated to support Israel. We can say what we want about them, and we don't need to like Nick Fuentes, but he should have the same First Amendment rights, and people should be able to talk to him if they disagree. 98% of people agreed with every word of that and said it's about time. Specifically, it's about time that somebody stood up to the bullies, because we've had enough. Everybody knows this is how it works. Everybody knows that if you have anything dissenting, anything critical to say about Israel, you will get these psychotic berserkers. That's their strategy. Laura Loomer, Josh Hammer, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, they will be on your case, bullying you, trying to intimidate you, working behind the scenes to get you fired, to get dirt on you, to blackmail you. That's how they operate. And so every time an American gets up and says America first, you have one of these psychotic berserkers coming in to shout you down, get you fired, get you canceled, tell you you're a bigot, you're a Jew hater, you're an anti-Semite, destroy your reputation. We have all witnessed this is what has been happening to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and me for 10 years. And finally, somebody stood up and said, you know what? No, we're not going to cancel Tucker Carlson. Fuck you. We're not going to cancel Tucker Carlson anytime soon. And if you think we're going to do that and pick you over him, you are insane. He stood on business. And people said it's about time that someone stood up to the bullying. But it was the 2% that dominated the timeline on Twitter today. It's crazy. Because I know that if I sent that video, and you know too, that if you sent that video to anyone you know, they would agree with what he said. But that's not what you saw on Twitter. You saw an avalanche on the timeline of the $7,000 club, the paid shills, as well as the 2%, the foreign agents, the foreign spies, the Israel firsters. Avalanche on the timeline in the quote tweets. And you would think everything I just said was a Hitler speech, was a Nazi pamphlet. They said, this is another Holocaust. I can't believe it's happening again. This is a dark day. I can't believe it's happening this fast. They're selling out their principles. What? What are you talking about? We'll read through this article and we'll get into some of specifically what they said. This is the article about the video. It says, quote, Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts is standing by Tucker Carlson after Tucker's friendly interview with Nick Fuentes drew condemnation from the GOP. Roberts, in a video posted to X on Thursday, denounced the venomous coalition criticizing Tucker, and their attempt to cancel him will fail, he said. He said Tucker remains a close friend and always will be. He added, I disagree with and even abhor things that Nick Fuentes said, but canceling him is not the answer either. His group, which launched Project Esther to combat anti-Semitism, Roberts said Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. The Heritage Foundation leader's public support comes as the former host faces backlash from conservatives over an inflammatory interview with Fuentes that was laced with anti-Semitism. Carlson said GOP supporters of Israel suffer from a brain virus. Here's some of the backlash. Jewish conservatives, including the CEO of the Republican Jewish Coalition, condemned the Heritage Foundation and its president, Kevin Roberts, for his defense of Tucker Carlson. He said, quote, watching the statements from Kevin Roberts today, as someone who was involved and supportive of the Heritage Foundation since I came to Washington in 1987, I am appalled, offended, and disgusted that he and Heritage would stand with Tucker and Nick Fuentes as somehow being acceptable spokespeople within the conservative movement. He's appalled, offended, and disgusted. These are the same people that have been watching a genocide unfold for 2 years, and they have been quite literally gloating and cheering it on. You have military generals coming home from Gaza reporting that people are being shot in the back of the head while they get food because they are starving to death. And elected representatives like Randy Fine laugh about this. Are there any Jewish conservatives that are disgusted with that? Appalled, offended? Because if you're not disgusted, appalled, and offended by that, then we can't take you seriously. You can shut up. Last year in Israel, at a prison, Israeli prison guards were raping prisoners of war with metal rods, raping them and torturing them to death. And when those Israeli generals were court-martialed, there were riots outside the prison to free them. If you're not offended, appalled, and disgusted by that, what are you so offended about in an interview? Nobody is taking you seriously. No one is buying this anymore. You forfeited. And understand, systematically, this is how this works. Traditionally, this is how they enforce their control. When anybody criticizes the political arrangement, which has us giving billions of dollars to Israel, fighting their wars, giving them missiles, kissing their wall, whenever anybody criticizes that, they come in with the emotional blackmail. They come in with the guilt tripping. And they talk about the Holocaust, and they say they're disgusted, and they say you're anti-Semitic. And in the past, this was enough for people. The memory of the Holocaust was enough for people to say, yeah, this is really messed up. We can't talk about that. But they've got a real problem on their hands. Because in the past 2 years, they have forfeited that moral high ground. You want to talk about the Holocaust, a genocide? How about talking about the genocide that you support right now? You want to talk about disgust and being appalled? How about the abuses that are happening today, which you support? You can't play that card anymore. You've lost it. And if you don't have that, you've got nothing. Nothing. Because you're not that likable. You're not that good looking. Look at Mark Levin, not a good looking guy. Look at Josh Hammer, not a good-looking guy, and they're not likable. They're irritating to listen to. That's just on a personal level. Their arguments are weak. They're not persuasive. So without that blackmail, they got nothing. And this is them playing the same playbook, pointing and sputtering. He's an anti-Semite. Get him. You have to cancel this guy. I'm appalled. I'm scared. You have to go after this guy. That's the only card they have. That's the only playbook they have. It doesn't work anymore. They don't realize that. It goes on. Brooks, the head of the RJC, said that Heritage's defense of Carlson and Fuentes is a total abrogation of their mission and what it means to be a conservative. Really? Well, if Christ is King, America First, and free speech aren't conservative, then what is? Giving everything to Israel? I mean, seriously. Be so for real right now. Richard Goldberg, a former Trump administration official, told Jewish Insider that his heart goes out to Heritage staff who have worked tirelessly for years in defense of the United States and Israel and in defense of Christians and Jews who deserve better than this. Oh, really? Their work, he continued, is fundamentally disconnected from the video that Kevin put out, which is vile and filled with canards and straw men trying to bait his opponents into an imagined conflict that doesn't exist. Canards, tropes, stereotype. Really? Is that all you got? Goldberg said that unless Roberts plans to conduct mass firings at Heritage, specifically those working on national security and foreign policy issues, he said there is a great deal of disconnect between what he is saying and what his organization is doing. He said, I hope we don't allow this strain to try to break what is core to American values and American interests. And that's Christians and Jews sticking together and America and Israel sticking together. That's all they care about. In his video, Roberts cited comments by Vice President Vance at a Turning Point event where he said that no other country should come before the interests of American citizens. Vance's comments came in response to an openly anti-Semitic question accusing Jews of persecuting Christians, a notion that Vance did not dispute. Brooks told Jewish Insider, I wish Vice President Vance had answered the question differently. He should know, and if he doesn't, I am sure there are a number of people who will make that information available to him. Oh, is he going to get another Holocaust museum visit? He's going to get another book report due? He said, I hope that a number of people will make the information available to him and educate him that the Israelis have not limited access to any Christian holy sites or persecuted Christians in Israel. Yeah, except for when they try to shoot the crosses off their churches or defend spitting on Christians as a Jewish tradition, which members of the Israeli government have said, or except for when they tried to ban the gospel in Israel, punishable by jail time. He urged Vance not to be afraid to be direct in shutting down Jew hate and anti-Semitic tropes when they appear, when he is out on the stump or campaigning. Another Jewish conservative, Noah Pollack, who is serving in the Trump admin as a senior advisor to the Department of Education, said, quote, I'm genuinely curious what Roberts and people promoting this line of innuendo think they're responding to. Did someone ask you to not be loyal to your faith and country? Who? Can you post a screenshot or something? Far-right influencer Laura Loomer, a close ally of Trump, claimed Roberts' statement was part of a coordinated psyop to kneecap Trump before the midterms. Rabbi Yaakov Menken said he's the executive vice president of the Coalition for Jewish Values. He said that Heritage has chosen to vocally stand with an anti-Semite, call his Jewish critics a venomous coalition, and slander organizations like CJV as if we were slandering Carlson rather than standing up for his victims. The consequences will be far-reaching. And finally, Jason Brodsky, the policy director of United Against Nuclear Iran, praised the work that Heritage has done on Iran, Israel, and anti-Semitism, but said the video is disappointing and lacks moral clarity, given that Carlson is obsessed with Jews and traffics in anti-Semitism. Let's be very clear what this is about. okay? Think about what is happening to America. Let's take a break with this and let's refocus for a second. What is happening to America? America is convulsing. There are probably 40 or 50 million illegal immigrants here. The foreign-born population has never been higher. We have been assaulted by wave after wave after wave of unrelenting, uninterrupted, always increasing mass migration from third world, non-white countries. We're losing America. Our cities are filthy. They're chaotic. They're filled with crime. The public transit is inhospitable and unsafe. Housing is unaffordable. Everything is too expensive, largely in part because of this. Wages are stagnant and going down because of the glut of foreign labor coming here. Forget about free trade. All the free trade agreements, bilateral and NAFTA and everything like that, which is sending all the jobs overseas. The country is insolvent. The country is broke. The country is dirty and violent and chaotic. It is too diverse. And if you attempt to enforce the laws or deport the illegals or remigrate the foreigners, you have riots of insane, radical left-wingers, anarchists, and transsexuals that are willing to shoot and kill not only conservatives, but also law enforcement. We have an entire generation that is not breeding. They're not having kids because they are demoralized, because they are depressed, because the women are feminist, because pornography is a scourge, because basic necessities like home ownership are unaffordable, because the job market is frozen, and they're only pulling up the ladder with artificial intelligence. This is the state of America. And none of these people, none of them have talked about any of these issues. You know what Ben Shapiro says about white people in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin that have been affected by these problems? He says, too bad. You're not promised jobs. You're not promised houses. He said, the only thing you're promised is the adventure of a lifetime, so go work on an oil rig or something. You know what Ben Shapiro said about these problems? He said, I don't give a damn about the browning of America. Really? Because I give a damn about that. I think a lot of people give a damn about that. I think a lot of people that have lived in neighborhoods for generations, cities or states or small towns and cities, I think they care a lot about Springfield, Ohio becoming Haiti, or Minneapolis becoming Somalia, or Dearborn becoming Saudi Arabia, or Los Angeles becoming Mexico, or Miami becoming Cuba. I think a lot of people care a lot about the browning of America. We don't like it. But what did the Jewish conservatives have to say about these problems? Oh, yeah. They said you're a conspiracy theorist. They said you're a white nationalist. You're a white supremacist. They're literally counting down the days when white people become a minority. And at the same time that they're victim blaming, at the same time that they're telling white people, get over it. This is a country with non-whites now. This is the country with immigrants that are more American than you because they're not ingrates, because they'll work for slave wages. After they told us, we don't care the country is becoming alien to you. We don't care the country of your ancestors is being killed by the elites. At the same time that they were doing and saying all of this, they were also telling us, we need to give Israel billions of dollars per year. We need to fight Iraq. We need to fight Syria. Now we need to fight Iran. Oh, your problems? That's a conspiracy theory. Oh, you're mad about everything? That's because you're an ingrate. We can't wait for you to be replaced. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Go work on an oil rig. Go do fracking in South Dakota or Texas or something. Get used to your new country. Oh, Israel needs our help? We need to send them all our money and go to war for them immediately. That is the situation. It is inside of this predicament that Donald Trump rose up in 2016. And what was the message? It wasn't the message that you have now, where he says all this nonsense about corporate tax cuts and invading Greenland and invading Venezuela and the rest of it. Let's remember Trump's original message. In 2015, Trump said, I don't want their money. I don't need their money. I am your voice for the forgotten men and women of America, for every parent that dreams for their child, every child that dreams for their future. I will fight for you. I will win for you. That was the message of Trump 2015. He said the war in Iraq was a mistake. He said free trade and mass migration have taken all the jobs. Mexico took the jobs. China took the jobs. He said our politicians are corrupt, they're stupid, and that's why they screwed over the people. He said, and he would literally take the country and make it great again. That's the message that animated this movement. Here we are 10 years later, and those promises have been stolen from us. Those promises have been totally corrupted. Look at the situation we're in now. They cut $800 billion out of Medicaid to pay for corporate tax cuts. They're telling us we can't pay for your benefits, but we can give Israel $30 billion. We can continue giving Ukraine all this money. They ran on Drain the Swamp. Now they're covering for Jeffrey Epstein. It is in this context, which cannot be ignored, that Tucker Carlson and people like myself and many others, Dave Smith, Jake Shields, Dan Bilzerian, others, are saying, what the hell happened to America First? We hate to interrupt this conversation between Israelis and communist Jews about how we're going to divide up America, but what the fuck about us? What about Americans? Hate to interrupt your little debate about whether we're going to give the money to Israel or whether we're going to give it to refugees and in the form of welfare reparations, but what about Americans? And it is in this context that we are being browbeaten now by shills taking $7,000 per post and foreign agents that get married in Israel, that marry Israelis, that identify as pro-Israel activists. And they are browbeating us and telling us, you hate Jews, you're obsessed with Jews, anti-Semitic tropes and canards and stereotypes. Here's a message everybody can get behind to the 2% that are holding our country hostage. It is not about you. You need to hear this message, courtesy of the 98%. It's not about you. Not everything is about you. The world does not turn on its axis around you. The world does not revolve around Israel. The world does not revolve around the Holocaust and anti-Semitic tropes. This is the United States of America, and we are done giving all of our money and all of our attention and all of our emotional bandwidth to you and your tragedies and your bitching and whining about Israel and the democracy in the Middle East and all this kind of stuff. Because you know what? America's a pretty tolerant country, and you guys are doing pretty good. Jews are the wealthiest demographic in the United States. Nobody's getting cheated. You look at the top universities, and Jews are 2,000% overrepresented. They're the richest demographic per capita. They're overrepresented in the Senate, on the Supreme Court, on Wall Street, in the media. This country's been pretty good to you. What more can you ask for? Not everything is about you. And where's the gratitude? Where's the respect? Where's the noblesse oblige? This country has given you so much, but it's never enough. You have real American patriots that want nothing other than what's best for America, and you just can't resist. You browbeat us and call us anti-Semites, cry about Jew hatred because we don't want yet another war in the Middle East? Seriously? Where is the self-awareness? Where is the introspection for your own sake? Where's the honesty? But they just can't help themselves, can they? And so here's the solution. Heritage Foundation, I like what they said, but they're a part of the problem too. Did you know that Heritage Foundation created a project a couple of years ago? It's called Project Esther. Jews are right about this, that Heritage is doing activities contrary to this statement that was released today. The mission statement of Project Esther is to infiltrate the federal government and use terrorism laws, immigration laws, RICO, as well as every other law on the books to sanction and target and censor and disrupt anybody criticizing Israel. That's got to stop. That has to stop. Why don't you apply those resources against the left? Why don't you apply those resources against those that hate whites, those that hate Christians, those that hate America? So I like the statement that Heritage gave. I like the statements that people are making. But what needs to happen is that the institutions of the conservative movement must come to reflect the priorities of the people they represent. This battle is not over until every Republican staffer, every Republican representative, every White House official, every right-wing think tank is filled with personnel that are carrying out this agenda, which is America first, Christ is king, free speech, stopping mass migration might need to be said explicitly. So here's what I would like to see. I would like to see Gavin Wax fired from the White House. Why is Gavin Wax still working in the State Department? Conservatives are getting killed by the left. The left is shooting up Christian churches. And you've got somebody in the State Department that is betraying his fellow Republicans to them. He needs to be fired. And Heritage Foundation, you need to roll up the Esther Project. You're talking about a public-private partnership to abuse anti-terrorism, immigration, and RICO statutes to censor free speech. You need to roll that up. That's got to go. No more Project Esther. These types of policies have to be eradicated in the GOP. These are not consistent with America first, Christ is king, or free speech. And we cannot meaningfully be bullied by this 2% that seems to only care about themselves. We're just not listening to them anymore. And here's my message to J.D. Vance, if he wants to be the president in 2028. You've got some choosing to do. Because right now you can have the Israel first money or you can have the America first votes, but you can't have them both. Fortunately for you, it's votes that win elections, so it shouldn't be a difficult decision. But that's the next stage here. J.D. Vance was at Turning Point USA last night, and the Groypers were there in full force, and they said, how is it America first to support Israel? Why are you going against Thomas Massey? Why did you marry a Hindu? What is going on with Palantir? And Vance had to walk a very fine line, pandering to the Groypers, but not alienating the Israel first money. And nobody was really happy. When J.D. Vance said, here's our reason for attacking Thomas Massey, nobody clapped. Nobody liked that. And when J.D. Vance declined to forcefully condemn anti-Semitism, the Israel money was not happy either. And as time goes on, the Israel First money is going to demand that J.D. Vance swear allegiance to them and condemn the Groypers and condemn anti-Semitism. And I'm telling you this right now, and you need to be with me on this. You need to raise your right hand right now. If J.D. Vance condemns the Groypers, if J.D. Vance signals to the Israel First lobby that he is condemning the America First movement, then we will not vote for him. We will not support him. And as a matter of fact, we will show up in Iowa and then New Hampshire and then Nevada and South Carolina to make sure that he never gets the nomination. That's the only way we can play this. Because the Israel First lobby and the $7,000 club, they are going to be on his ass. And they're going to be all over him, telling him, if you don't disavow them, if you don't tell us that you stand with us, we will not give you money. We will attack you. They're going to come for him hard. And there's going to be such a strong incentive for him to condemn America first. And he might say, I condemn anti-Semitism, I condemn the Groypers, and he might have some reason for that. But we'll know what the message means. It's a signal. And the signal is, I'm with Israel first. Now, J.D. Vance, I'll tell you this. You don't like me, I don't like you. But if you cross that red line, I promise you, I swear to God, I will be there in Iowa with 10,000 Groypers, and we will be at every event. We will be at every event. And we will be doing events of our own, and we will be knocking on doors, and we will be spending money. I'll be raising money to do it. Many will do it for free. You think they're a pain in your ass? We'll be a bigger pain in your ass because there's more of us, and we want it more. They have the clocks. We have the time. Cross that red line, we will be your worst enemy. Politically. Important to clarify. If you stay neutral, maybe we'll recuse ourselves. Maybe we'll stay out of it. No promises. But if you do something for us, if you do something for America first, maybe you'll get our votes. And maybe you'll get our support. And maybe that means nothing a year ago. Maybe it means something now. Maybe in a couple of years, it'll mean a lot. This is how we engage in politics. People say we're never going to vote our way out of it. You're right. But we can use politics to our advantage. If we're united, if we're organized, if we have a coordinated message, if we make it clear, we will not tolerate any more concessions to Israel first. Only America first. That's how you're going to get the under 25 demographic. If you try it to appease the Israel First lobby, I promise you, you will lose the under 25 demographic. Forget about it. They won't turn out. They will not turn out. No one will turn out to support more of that status quo. You can wave that goodbye. I promise you that, and they know that. So you're going to have to make a decision. Their money or our votes? Israel first and the special interests, or America first and the actual national interest of this country? That's your decision. And that's the decision, by the way, for all of them. Any prospective candidate, all the think tanks, all the congressmen, that's your choice. But we have to focus our efforts on the presidential primary in 2028. And I don't think that should be a difficult decision to make. Because at the end of the day, and again, I'm going to reiterate this at the very end, make no mistake about it. This is about Israel's eighth front in their war. It could not be more clear. Why did I rise to prominence? Why did Tucker crash out on Israel? It is for one reason and one reason only. It is because right now, the Israel lobby is driving us into another war in the Middle East. That is what they're doing. They want us to fight Iran. They want us to fight in Lebanon. They want us to fight in Gaza. They want us to pay for and facilitate their ethnic cleansing. And they're going too far. It's that simple. Netanyahu has made it very clear that the information war in America, he considers that a front in his war against Iran and the Palestinians. That's why they bought TikTok. That's why they bought CBS. That's why there's this all out attack right now on Tucker Carlson. That's where the pressure is coming from. And so they'll say a lot of things. They'll say a lot of things about me, and they'll try to use Erica Kirk as a wedge and say he attacked her. They'll try to throw things out. Well, 3 years ago, he said this bad thing. They'll try to call us anti-Semites, and they can say those things. That's not what it's really about. At the end of the day, what this is about is whether the United States is going to do another Iraq war, whether we're going to repeat all those mistakes, whether America will have another memorandum of understanding, another $40 billion for Israel. That's what this is about. And everyone from Tucker to Marjorie Greene to Thomas Massey to Candace Owens to Joe Rogan to Dave Smith, Piers Morgan, Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur. It's getting to be a long list. Kanye West, yay. Everybody is starting to say enough is enough. We are telling the 2% and the $7,000 club holding us hostage, the Israel Firsters, we're telling them no. It stops here. Enough is enough. We're not going to vote for this. We're not going to support this. And we're done being silent about it. Don't let them gaslight you. This is whether we're America first or Israel first. That's the civil war in the GOP. And I would say to someone like Matt Walsh, what side are you on? Scott Greer, what side are you on? Seriously. Enough. We are in the middle of this, and you have some of the strongest conservatives. They pretend it's not happening. It's pathetic. They're sitting there in Nashville and Arlington with their fingers in their ears. They tweet 100 times a day. Don't you understand this? They tweet 100 times per day about inanity and bullshit. There's a civil war going on in the party about sovereignty and independence, and they have nothing to say. They've got nothing but endless bullshit to spew about Squid Games and metal music and every other subject, Disney Plus and Snow White. They're tweeting 100 times a day about this crap. This is the most important question in America. It's about our independence and sovereignty. And suddenly they got nothing to say. Suddenly it gets real quiet. The tweets slow down. And they think it's going to blow over. Well, you know what? We're going to remember whose side you were on and when you were. It's time to choose up. Matt Walsh, how much longer? Hey, Matt Walsh, aren't you getting a little tired of being on these Zoom calls and getting humiliated ritualistically by Ben Shapiro? Aren't you tired of sitting there self-consciously, deeply aware that you're being clipped while they make endless jokes about Catholics and how they own you and they sign your paychecks? You're blinking 500 times. Aren't you getting a little tired of that? Or are you a man? When is enough for you? When will you realize this isn't going away? This will not blow over. And you have a responsibility as an American. Same goes for Scott Greer, all these white nationalists. Where are they now? It's a time for choosing. They wrote that in National Review. They said, this is a time for choosing. They're right. They say it's anti-Semitism versus whatever. No. This is America first versus Israel first. Whose side are you on? Me? Knowing that I could be killed any day, knowing that I could die any day, I'm pleased with myself knowing that for all my faults, for all my sins, all the careless words, mistakes I've made, I always stood with Jesus Christ, with the Catholic Church, with our founders, with the United States and our sovereignty, our independence, the veterans, our ancestors, the people that built this country, fought for this country, died for this country, the saints and the apostles, for the Greeks and the Romans, for the conquerors, the colonists, the Europeans. I stood with them. What did you do when it was the time for choosing? Did you work for Ben Shapiro some more? What will they say about you when your time comes? I know who I'm with. So that's that. That's your civil war in the GOP. And my message to all of our soldiers out there, my message to our cadre of patriots that I see in the streets every day. And by the way, I've become very popular. Everywhere I go now, I get recognized, and it's all love. And it's every kind of person. It's mostly young men, but it's every kind of young man. It's white guys, it's Hispanic guys, it's black guys. I see them in the airport. I see them at the drive-thru. I see them in the streets. I see them in restaurants. I see them everywhere. And they always say, I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. You're right. When I was in Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago, I had a Uber driver. He was from Liberia. He said, I've been watching your show for years. He said, you're so right. I don't want to dox him anymore. I don't know how many of those guys there are. I saw some young white guy in the airport in Maine. He comes up and says, hey, man, love your show. You here for Tucker? When I came back in Chicago, another young white guy, built, Jack, Chad, he came up to me. He said, hey, man, love the show. Keep doing what you're doing. I went to a restaurant the other day, old school. I go there all the time, my favorite beef stand. A bunch of young kids and an older guy working there. They said, we love your show. Can we get some pictures? They said, the beef is on the house. And if they're watching, thank you for that. Everywhere I go, the people are with us. The people are with America. They're ready for the fight. They're ready to stand up for our rights. They're ready to stand up for our independence. We could put all the bullshit aside for now. We could put all the division. We could put all the animosity aside. Country's got problems. Everyone knows that. Country has racial problems, ethnic problems. There's no denying that. We're not going to see eye to eye on a lot of those things. But the one thing we can all agree on as Americans, we want our government to take better care of us and not the special interests, the rich, the oligarchs, the foreign countries. That's a message everyone can get behind. And if we can marry that to the magnanimity and the benevolence of the Christian religion, nobody should be afraid of what comes next. People say, Nick Fuentes is like a Hitler-type figure. If we can marry that kind of national pride and that kind of fervor for America first with the self-sacrificial love of the Christian religion, which I sincerely believe in, then nobody could be concerned about what happens next. Nothing bad can happen with that combination. If we turn ourselves to God, if we give our intentions and our minds and our hearts to God, if we turn our will to His will, and if we stand for our forefathers, for our country, for justice and propriety, what can go wrong? If we can transform ourselves and live up to the standards set by our ancestors, if we could be virtuous, if we could be courageous, if we can be honest and tell the truth, if we could be charitable with each other, we can transform ourselves, we can transform this country, and nobody and nothing can stand in our way, and nobody should be afraid. Nothing can go wrong if we're rightly guided in that way. And you look at the other side, and that's not the message you're getting. It's nothing but contempt, derision, disdain, willful dishonesty, attempts to smear, uncharitable bad faith attacks. You said this, you said that. Nothing but venom, nothing but accusations. The devil is the accuser. That's all we get from the other side. To them, we extend the open arm. To us, they extend the dagger. Rise and kill them first, they say. I don't think so. So anyway, that's our message. That is the future. That's the vision. That's America first. That's who we are. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this.
All right, let's get right to it. So this Heritage Foundation response from the president of Heritage, Kevin Roberts, has everybody going crazy. All right. And when I say everybody, I mean it has people that are upset, the people who don't want Nick Fuentes to be platformed for whatever reason, right? but they try to act as if they're mad at Tucker for giving a weak interview or mad at Tucker for even platforming Nick in the first place. Look, people are going to have conversations with Nick Fuentes. People think that they can gatekeep conversations with Nick Fuentes, and it's not going to happen. This is the result of y'all trying to do that. The reason why Nick Fuentes is blowing up the way that he is blowing up now is because y'all have tried to play this gatekeep censorship role. Charlie Kirk was one of the main people that were doing it, and now you're seeing the results. You're seeing the results of those text messages that Denise D'Souza put up from Charlie Kirk saying that you should have never interviewed him, you should have never platformed him, you should have never gave him a compliment, all these different things. This is the problem with y'all having that energy that Charlie Kirk said in that text message. We've been fighting this guy for 6 years. Y'all been trying to jump one person for 6 years. Because why? Because they have feelings and thoughts about Israel that doesn't align with your donors. Because clearly Charlie Kirk seems, though, with these messages that have been put out in group messages with Josh Hammer. Hold on, let me adjust that. My apologies for that. But it seems like these messages that have been put out, just like the one that was at a group message with Josh Hammer, that Charlie Kirk was shifting his stance a bit. He was changing his views. Or what I tend to believe is that Charlie Kirk was getting frustrated because he kept being asked questions by a group of people that were his followers, as well as people who tend to listen to Nick. So they may align with some of the things that Tucker's saying, may align with some of the things that Dave Smith, Theo Vaughn, Candace Owens, that these people are saying, and they're asking Charlie Kirk, and he's pissed off at Bibi Netanyahu because the propaganda isn't working as it used to. They're being asked real questions, and it's making Charlie Kirk look very, what would I say? It's making him look very hypocritical. It was making him look very hypocritical. So these people have been trying to gatekeep Nick Fuentes for a while. And even the people that now will try to say, oh, well, it's cool. Nick was on Tucker. It's just Tucker conducted such a bad interview. Charlie would be so upset. How can he be at Turning Point USA and then the next day or the next week put out an interview with Nick Fuentes? Like Charlie Kirk or anybody else should determine who Tucker has on Tucker's show. And what's so funny about it is, or ironic, is that Josh Hammer being so upset, right? Josh Hammer is so upset because he feels that Tucker platformed Nick. My question for Josh Hammer is that, well, how upset were you based on Charlie Kirk platforming Tucker? Because if you're throwing all these neutralized words in there, and you're a smart guy, I've read some of your stuff. I've had to go to the dictionary every time I look at you writing something that's over 5 sentences. I got to go to the dictionary and look up some of the words. So you understand, you're a smart guy. You understand how to communicate. You understand that what certain words are going to represent, especially in the climate that Charlie Kirk was just assassinated, a political assassination, and now you're referencing certain people saying that they should be neutralized. So how did you feel about Tucker being platformed by Charlie Kirk? Were you upset with Charlie? That last conversation that y'all had the night before, were you pretty upset with him, or was it just all love? Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving, because I don't want to spend too much time on Josh Hammer. Well, a funny thing that I realized, or that I was looking through this, and Nick said some interesting things throughout this episode, some that I want to unpack. And Nick mentioned, I'm going through my notes. Nick mentioned that he believes that Jesus Christ is King and God, not the Bible. That's something that's very interesting. Very interesting. And these are some of the conversations or thoughts that I've had, questions that I've had for a very long time. Like even from a simple standpoint as well as, well, the Bible was written 20 to 40 years or so, maybe more than that, after Jesus had already passed, right? So that was always a question to me, but I understand what Nick is saying as far as him believing that Jesus Christ is King and God and the only way to God. I got to admit that's a bit problematic for me. That's a bit problematic for me because that's the whole tribalism. That's the whole, well, our story of God and the creator outweighs your story. Our story is better than your story. There's only one way. Truth be told, there's an infinity amount of ways to get to God. Everybody has their own journey there, I would assume. And I would assume that that's what God would create based on all of us being his children, right? Like, I don't think God would say, well, you have to go through this door to, I don't think it works like that, but that's just some pushback that I have. And I think that that's the mindset that has ultimately gotten us in trouble. That's the mindset that, in my opinion, Nick is complaining about when it comes to the influence that he's complaining that Israel has on our government. It's tribalism. So just as tribalism can affect perhaps Israel in a way and impact our relationships with them and impact Israel to maybe think that it's okay for them to commit a genocide against a group of Palestinians, I think that that same tribalism can also lead to getting us in trouble. If I'm just being totally honest, whatever you decide to commit your life to that makes you become a better human, whatever rules that you want to stand by, then that's for you. And this is another thought that came up. We were having a conversation yesterday about religion, about God, different faiths, different religions. And I realized, well, this is just my realization. It may not be the same for everybody, but I realized that culture supersedes religion across the board across the board. Culture determines more about who a person is rather than religion. Because if I have a certain culture, how I live my life, me embracing this golden rule of treating others the way that I want to be treated, I can walk into any religion. I can learn from any religion. I can adopt any religion and have a positive mindset. And I feel like it can really impact me in a positive way to become a better person, to maximize my potential in various areas of my life. And I feel that this is the same for a lot of others. However, if you have a different culture where it's tribalism, where it's us versus them, where it's our way of thinking and our creation story and our God is the only, if there's only one God, then why are humans trying to gatekeep the relationship between other people and God and you between God? We have a cultural issue, in my opinion. And the cultural issue is tribalism. And it impacts us in a way where we always will pin ourselves against, it's us versus them. So therefore, what ends up happening, we end up prioritizing putting our principles, morals, and values to the side because we feel that it's justified in this us versus them mentality. Because our perception of Jesus, our perception of the Bible, because we believe it as one thing, then everybody else should embrace that. And if they don't embrace it as that, then we should be able to conquer these people. Then we should be able to go to war against these people. This is the mindset. Go back and look up the history of the document of discovery. This is manifest destiny, like Nick Fuentes was talking about. This is what he was talking about the other day when he said it's not your gold if you can't protect it. Well, is that really how we want to live? Is that really how humanity is going to elevate? Is that really what Jesus would like? Is that Christ-like? Because on one end, when I hear Nick talking about it's not your gold if you can't protect it, but then in a show later, or maybe even in the same show, I'd have to go back and look, he wrote that, you should treat your neighbor. I'm paraphrasing, but it's the whole treat others how you want to be treated. But he said something that was a little bit different than that. And it was that you should put your neighbor before you. I believe that that's what he said. Don't quote me on it. I have it in my notes somewhere, but it seems like we contradict ourselves based on tribalism. It seems that we pick and choose when we want to apply these Christ-like principles. I'll give you another example. And this is not Christ-like, I don't think. This is what I'm saying is that has nothing to do with religion, but it's a similar example. When Nick brings up George Washington, and says that George Washington, and this is something that I've said over and over as well, where, George Washington was a strong proponent of not getting involved in foreign affairs. And then when I sit back and look at it, I'm like, well, I wonder if George Washington felt that when he was a British soldier and he came to America, and as much as Nick makes it seem as if it was just, Columbus just discovering America, or, Europeans just discovering America. Like, there were actually people here. And as Nick pointed out, yeah, a lot of the Asian cultures, or I think he was talking about China specifically, but overall Asia, they wanted to bring people to them. Nick said that they thought that they were the center of the universe, while Europeans, they went out and explored, manifest destiny. So people pick and choose when to apply certain principles. We pick and choose. We pick and choose. Oh, is it okay to get involved in foreign affairs? Well, now that we've taken America, now that we've gotten rid of the indigenous people that were here, now that we have our own country, now it's don't get involved in foreign affairs. And I'm not saying that to be critical or to sit here and play victim, like, oh my God, these evil Europeans, they came and colonized. I'm not saying that. Look, if y'all have tapped into the show, then you should understand that I don't play the whole victimhood mentality thing. I just don't. But I do have these thoughts come to mind. I'm not just a go along, get along with whatever Nick Fuentes says. No, I'm never that. I'm a 38-year-old, free thinking, independent thinking with my own experience. I don't follow people, right? I appreciate people and the things that they can teach, but I'm not a follower of people. I'm not a fanatic. I follow principles, morals, and values. And when people are aligned with those things, then I can appreciate them for being aligned with those things. But when you follow people, then you tend to do the very same thing and justify violating your principles, violating God's commandments when you see it fit, because you justify it because it benefits your self-interest. Now, once again, I'm not saying that, well, George Washington was a bad person. I'm just bringing that up as another example how we all do it. I'm sure I do it. I'm sure I do it in certain aspects of my life. I'm sure that I've done it in relationships. I'm sure that I've done it in friendship. I'm sure that I've done it. We don't try to do these things, or I would assume that a lot of us don't try to do these things, but if we're holding ourselves accountable, then we would all have to acknowledge that we do these things. So let's move on from there. Nick then went on to talk about standing up for bullies, right? And he said that it's about time that somebody has stood up to the bullies. He's talking about Israel. And he says that everybody knows that if you say something bad about Israel, you'll get bullied. Remember how I said that, or maybe you didn't see the show earlier, our live show every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Make sure you tap into that. Sometimes I get confused, like, didn't I already say that? No, I didn't say. All right, moving on. Zionists like Josh Hammer and people like Charlie Kirk are the reason why Nick Fuentes is as big as he is. When you try to bully somebody that will not allow you to bully them, what it does is it gives other people courage who perhaps felt like you were bullying them as well. So not only do you create a heroic figure in Nick Fuentes, but then you also create a following of that heroic figure because people appreciate Nick for not allowing the bully to bully them. Now, you may disagree or agree with him on the situation, but certain people just appreciate somebody standing up to a bully. And we've said this over and over. All you got to do is talk to a baby boomer and ask them, their thoughts on Israel, their thoughts on perhaps Jewish people, Jewish culture, their thoughts on Zionism. They grew up walking on eggshells when it comes to Jewish culture, when it comes to certain aspects of it. Just being real, like, come on now. To Israel, to Zionism, we're different. And when I say we're, I'm really talking about the younger generation than my own. They're different. All you have to do is listen to Nick Fuentes. There's a reason why he's growing. And we can sit here and act like the people that only appreciate Nick Fuentes. I'm not saying agree with Nick, the people that appreciate Nick Fuentes. We can act like they're only young kids, but it's not. It's not. These people may not admit it, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, she appreciates Nick Fuentes. Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, they all appreciate Nick Fuentes because maybe he's willing to call things out in a way that they're not even comfortable calling it out. They know what's going on when it comes to their, Marjorie Taylor Greene's fellow politicians, what's going on, whether it could be the Epstein files, could be various situations when it comes to our involvement with Israel. They understand that the impact that AIPAC has on all of our politicians, or a lot of our politicians on both sides of the aisle. And they understand the overall impact that Israel as a state, whether it's private donors like Miriam Adelson, I believe is her name, across the board, there's a huge impact. It just is what it is. And people are rooting against the bully. And matter of fact, it's people who, like I said, when I say you've created the problem, people like Josh Hammer, people that have been trying to silence Nick Fuentes, now people who may not have even agreed with Nick Fuentes on the issue, y'all are getting us to dive deeper into this topic. Y'all are the ones that are exposing this. Y'all are the ones shining a flashlight. We had somebody on the show earlier say that, I'm from Israel, and he sent a super chat. He sent me a super chat and he said, are you surprised that I'm a Nick Fuentes supporter, or that I agree with Nick? And I'm like, well, actually not. If I was living in Israel, I would be pretty pissed off at the things that Bibi Netanyahu's doing as well, especially when you're putting me in danger, when you're having the rest of the world look at me crazy because they're associating me with this genocide that's already been committed. Now people are doing a deeper dive into how Israel was even created in the first place. And we're finding out, like, hold up. If I was Palestinian, I would have a problem with people taking my land, taking my home, not giving me the right to return, not compensating me for anything. I would have a problem with that. The violation of international law. You can't do that. The UN making a recommendation and Israel ignoring it. So I'm not surprised that Israelis would speak up. I would hope, this is what we always talk about, I would hope that good cops speak out against bad cops. I would hope that good human beings are willing to challenge human beings that are not living by Christ-like or godly or what, just human standards. It doesn't even have to get into the whole religious aspect of it. It's an interesting time that we're living in. And this is why I said earlier, maybe even earlier this week or last week, that there's a threat that I don't like. And one of the reasons why, what I'm saying that there's a threat that I don't like, is when you listen to a lot of the feedback that people had with Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick, I'm seeing people write, yeah, this is just another example to all my Jewish people why you need to get guns, carry, make sure that you know how to shoot, make sure. And I'm like, wait, what? Just because Tucker Carlson did an interview with Nick Fuentes, y'all feel like y'all got to take up arms? Could you imagine if Nick Fuentes said that the other way? Could you imagine? Hey, young conservatives, make sure you get some guns, and nobody's coming to protect us. Nobody's coming to fulfill our agenda. So therefore, take up arms, practice, get ready. Could you imagine? So in my opinion, when I'm talking to my Jewish brothers and sisters and people that may be seeing things from a very biased and non-objective standpoint when it comes to what's going on in that region, I think that there's a threat between Americans, especially when you look at these young 20 to 30-year-olds that are huge followers of Charlie Kirk and asking some of the questions that Nick Fuentes Groypers would be asking. And Nick Fuentes has a huge following. We know that. Candace Owens has a huge following. We know that. Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, obviously. Israel's not stupid. You think Bibi Netanyahu's not talking to other countries? You think he's not talking to other world powers? Preparing for if something goes wrong with the United States, if the United States stops acting right, or if we stop allowing them to bully everybody in the region, you don't think that they're talking to other people? This is where, to me, the biggest threat. I don't think that it's a threat when it comes to all these Arab nations in that area. They're all scared of America. If we're being honest, they're scared to do something because America, we're the big bully right now. Now, that may just be right now. I don't know if that's going to be the case 6 months from now, 6 years from now, who knows? But right now, that's that's the issue as far as the biggest threat that I see. And I don't want that to happen. Like I said before, the people in Israel, Jewish people, y'all my brothers and sisters, Muslims, y'all my brothers and sisters. We don't have to do anything. But isn't this exactly what Nick even said in his show? He said, yo, it doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what color you are. If you just put America first, then we can align. We can get on board. Okay, let's take it a little bit outside of just nationalism. From a human standpoint. From a human standpoint, how do we elevate? How do we get to some point where we can have peace and harmony? Because a lot of people may not prioritize peace because we are the biggest bully in the world. So it's easy to not feel that we need to prioritize peace as the biggest bully in the room. But that day may not always, that may not be always the same dynamics, that we're the biggest bully. I bet you if we weren't the biggest bully in the room, then we'd be a little bit more aligned with pursuing peace than we do now. All right, let's keep going with the notes. Nick said that America as a country is dirty, broke, violent, and chaotic. It is, America's in a rough place. It's in a rough place, and this is the one area that I'm trying to think, if I spoke to my friends and family, this is probably the one area that they would say, bro, you got to stop complaining. When Nick talks about a generation that's not having kids, where women are feminists, you got pornography playing such a role, everything's unaffordable. And Nick asked the question, like, what young man would sign up for this? It is almost impossible, fellas. Like, men are just not appreciated. It's like I look at the generation before us and I'm like, damn, like if I was performing how I'm performing to your mama or to your grandma, I feel like I'd be appreciated a lot more. Shoot. Women feel entitled. It's just a bad place. Everything's unaffordable. We're living in a rough time. We're living in a rough time. And that's something that definitely resonates with me. And I don't look forward to seeing how that's going to impact our country. Like I said, we think that we're always going to be the bully. We think that we're always going to be, the controlling power in this world. We're not having kids, while other countries, they haven't. I think some of these countries, even they're stopping people from having kids. I think some of these countries, I don't want to quote, y'all probably are thinking about the same country that I'm thinking about, but I don't want to misquote it and be wrong. But the point is that in America, because of all these factors, I don't know what things are going to look like for the next generation and the next generation after that. I don't know. But America, I definitely agree with Nick. It's dirty, it's broke, it's violent, it's chaotic. We need a cultural shift. We need a cultural shift in all of America. I've been saying this for a very long time when it comes to culture and the impact. And I know Nick calls it out, perhaps as he should, every time that there's a black issue. He's living in Chicago, which is obviously, they calling it Chirac. Huge violence problem with a lot of the younger black men, if we're just being honest. But what I've said over and over, we look at a lot of these cultural problems as black problems. No, these are American problems. They may be highlighted more in the black community or, more extreme in the black community, but trust and believe, these are American problems that we have. And it's funny that I think later on in the show, so I already looked at some of the Q&As, but he actually talks about this when it comes to black culture and how it's impacted certain people. So I'll let y'all wait and see that when I put it up. But let's move on. So getting back to that Heritage post and Nick discussing the Heritage Foundation supporting Tucker Carlson. Kevin Roberts did mention that, what did he say? He deplores some of the things that Nick Fuentes says and disagrees with others. He said something along those lines. And what Nick pointed out, I was not aware of. I was not aware of Project Esther when he said that Heritage is part of the problem, that they're being used to sanction and target anybody criticizing Israel. So when I looked at it, simple chat GPT lookup. And I got to start looking at some of these other AI, like either Gronk or Grok, and some others. Because chat GPT, they give me answers sometimes like BB Netanyahu sponsoring them. If I'm just being honest, and I shouldn't just say BB, but they give answers I definitely should not say BB. I'm being totally honest because the things that I'm actually recalling now that I've looked up and I'm like, yo, y'all, you sugarcoating this a little bit, it's very pro-European and just different, you know what I mean? So I'll just leave that there. But Project Esther. Project Esther describes itself as a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism. The name references the biblical figure Esther, who in the Hebrew Bible intervenes to save the Jewish people in Persia. The initiative argues that certain pro-Palestinian advocacy in the U.S. is part of a broader network it calls a Hamas support network, and therefore links to anti-Semitism and poses a threat to Jewish safety, U.S. values, and democracy. Let's actually see. Okay, so this was October 2024. What a difference a year makes. What a difference a year makes. Because if you apply that same thinking now, when it says that the initiative argues that certain pro-Palestinian advocacy in the U.S. is part of a broader network it calls the Hamas support network. So is Tucker Carlson, I guess, a part of the Hamas support network now, according to Heritage? Is Tucker Carlson considered a pro-Palestine advocate? Is Nick Fuentes considered a pro-Palestine advocate? Is Dave Smith considered a pro-Palestine advocate? Is what's the guy? What's it? Jeffrey Sackler? I feel like smart dude. Is he considered are all these people considered Hamas support network? And the reason why Nick is bringing this up, saying that they're part of the problem because they're feeding into it. This is why I actually feel for a lot of Jewish people and Zionists and just pro-Israel people in general, because we've spoiled Israel to the point where have you ever you notice how some people say, I don't, how can I couch this? All right. We all have certain friends, right? Let's say we have one person in our friend group that maybe makes a lot more money than others. And let's say when you're younger, you tend to ask that person when you need something, or it could be somebody in your family, you ask them, they tell you 9 times they come to you and you say yes. That 10th time they come to you, you say no. They act like you just destroyed them. They act like you just turned your back on them. Like you're not for them anymore. All these, you get what I'm getting at, right? This is what we've done with Israel. So now when the Heritage Foundation puts out something that, like Nick says, what did they say that people don't agree with? What's so wild as far as what he said? He said that, yeah, we're Christian based. We support Tucker. Matter of fact, I think Nick, did I write it down? Yeah, he said that. I think there were 3 things that he pointed out. He said Christ is king, America first, and that free speech should be allowed. Do most conservatives not agree with that? Do most, I mean, I'm sure a lot of Democrats actually agree with that. So when you have a guy from Heritage saying this, it's a bit hypocritical because you're saying free speech, but then you put out Project Esther a year before where you're calling people who are just pro-Palestine a part of the Hamas support network and therefore links to anti-Semitism and poses a threat to Jewish safety, U.S. values, and democracy. That's why Nick Fuentes is saying, yeah, but Heritage, you're part of the problem. And he's pointing out something that a lot of us were not even aware of when it comes to this Project Esther. I know I wasn't. So everybody is to blame for this. Everybody is to blame for this. That's my stance on it. I think that there's a lot of blame to go around, but I don't even care about the blame. I don't care about the blame. Like I said, I'm not a lot of people may hear what I'm saying and be offended by it and feel that I'm considering maybe Bibi Netanyahu an enemy, or it's not that. Yo, I'm not for war. Let me just, for those that are not really familiar with my content, I'm not for war. I don't think violence begets anything but violence. I think that we're an advanced civilization that should be applying advanced techniques to solving problems other than war and killing each other, especially because I always look at war and you look at who are the people dying. It's the people that don't even benefit. It's the people that are on the field, while the politicians that, pull the strings or have their strings pulled in order to control us, they're not putting their lives on the line. They're not risking anything. They're just they're throwing our lives away like pawns on a chessboard. It's just a pawn. That's what I have an issue with. I just don't think that it accomplishes anything. When this war between Ukraine and Russia ends, if it ever ends, what do you think they're going to sit back and say? Yeah, this was like, what do you think is going to get done that couldn't have gotten done by them just sitting at the table before there was any violence that occurred? Am I in a fairy tale world? I may be. I don't know. I just think that a group of people, the human race, a race of people that is living in 2025 right now, who has AI, who has so much of advanced AI to where people are now having their jobs threatened. I just saw, I think the LinkedIn CEO or somebody say that like by 2035, there's going to be no 9-to-5 jobs. I don't know if I heard that correctly. Let me actually, somebody sent me that. Hold on. Let me make sure that I'm recalling it correctly. Let me make sure. Wait, I think it was sent to me on Instagram. Hold up. Let me make sure. I just don't want to. Oh, yeah. So it says LinkedIn founder just shocked the world by warning that all 9-to-5 jobs will be gone by 2034. Very interesting for a guy like who founded LinkedIn to be saying these things. That's how advanced AI is. You telling me we can't figure out a way outside of just killing each other to solve problems, outside of just threatening each other with nuclear bombs? And like, let's just do better. That's all I'm saying. What would Jesus do? Jesus would want us to do better, right? So if we're trying to live more Christ-like, if we're trying to be more godly, no matter what your religion is, don't you think we should have a higher standard of what's allowed, of what's deemed acceptable? Because if we deem war as acceptable, then we're always going to get to that point where we're going to use the most extreme, quote unquote, acceptable route to solve a problem. Especially the country that feels like they can win the altercation, or feel like the altercation can at least get the rest of the world to see them in a way that's favorable. So therefore, the rest of the world, other people may step in and convene and intervene. Perhaps I'm living in a bubble. Perhaps I'm living in a fantasy world. But I'd rather be living in my fantasy world than to be living in Matt Walsh's world. Matt Walsh, man. Come on home, Matt Walsh. Now, let me stop. But Matt Walsh, he needs to get up out of there. He needs to get up out of there. Not because Ben Shapiro is Jewish, not because he's a Zionist, not because he's pro-Israel, but I just don't think that Ben Shapiro is a good person. And I just think that, and aside from that, I just don't think that Matt Walsh is being his truest self. You gotta be you, Matt Walsh. You look miserable. You feel like you're getting played. You feel like you're being used, and perhaps it's time to just do your own thing, bro. We're allowed to grow. We're allowed to change, man. It's to the point where I don't even think Matt Walsh has responded, has given his feedback on what he thinks about with Tucker and Nick, probably because the things that he would say would get his boss upset. So rather than saying something that he doesn't believe in, he's choosing to not say anything at all. I can only assume, but that's all I got. That's all I got in the notes. I'm expecting to get a lot of pushback from y'all based on this conversation, based on the feedback that I gave, whether it's George Washington, whether it's what Nick was discussing as far as, Christ being king and just other things that I may have mentioned, but that's okay.
It's okay for us to have disagreements. It's really okay. It's what we should be having. It's what we should be doing, sharing our perspectives. Right? It doesn't matter what y'all say to me. It doesn't matter if you tell me that I'm wrong. I'm going to look into it and say, you know what? Okay, what am I missing in this area? I'm gonna process it. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna consider it. This is what we should be doing. Why not? I'm not scared to be wrong. I'm not scared to correct myself. All right. So this is why I always tell y'all, yo, give me some feedback, like and subscribe and turn your notifications on. But what I really appreciate is y'all giving me some feedback, especially if that feedback is maybe helping me with a blind spot that I may have, helping me with something that may be triggering me emotionally, that's impacting how I'm looking at something. So as always, I appreciate y'all, and still subscribe, still leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next one.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Walsh, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all, along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.